I was like, ladies, just let me be over here with my notebook and doing what I'm doing. And she was like, you're so into music. Have you ever thought about going to a performing arts high school? And I was like, well, what's that? And she opened this book. She showed me, the alternative high schools in New York City. And I was just like, this might be my out. Mm-hmm. And, I presented it to my parents and they were like, no. And I was like adamant that I was going to go because I wasn't participating in school. My grades weren't there. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, well, if you don't let me go, I'm not doing anything. And we like really fought back and forth. And then finally, my cousin was like, who lived in Harlem, was like, she could come stay with me. And that's how we were able to make it happen. I went out there, fell in love. At first they said, oh, we're going to bring you down there to see what it's like to entertain me. But ended up actually liking it for me and seeing that I liked it. So that's what I did. I left OHS and then I went to school in the city for 2 years.
Now, what was the name of the school in the city?
Public School Repertory Company. Okay. So it was like right in the middle of Times Square on 43rd Street. So I was like, I could see HBO, MTV was there. This is when they still had Virgin Mega Stores. So you go around the corner and I can like listen to music. I know the kids that are watching, y'all know nothing about this, but we can actually go into the music store and like listen to albums.
That's right.
Before we purchased them. So, but yeah, that was like for me.
Okay. But so before we move forward to that, I just want to go back to one thing you said. You were an introvert. You were very quiet. What gave you the courage to get on Hot 97 and do that rhyme for someone that's quiet?
Well, I think at that point, I probably, was coming more and more out of, being, quiet and started like moving to a space where I could advocate for myself. And so, yeah, I just is like, it's better than doing nothing. So I just did it.
Okay, so we're going to go forward into the Performing Arts School. So now you're there, and they're nurturing your desire to be an artist. Is that what they're doing, or what happened there?
So, I mean, the school. I mean, it was when I got there, when everything right is wrapped in a pretty bow before you get there. But it really wasn't the school. What moved me to my next space was I saw a flyer in the hallway, and it was a flyer and it was like calling all like rappers and MCs and people interested in making an album and wanting to meet people in the music industry to like write, market, and produce their own hip hop album. And I was like, that's why I'm here. So I snatched the flyer off the wall, and I was like, grew up here my whole life, right? So I don't know nothing about no subways. I don't, I know how to, at that time was I can leave here and get to Harlem and come back, but I didn't know anything about Soho, Brooklyn, any of that. So, but where there's a will, there's a way. So grabbed the flyer, then I was like, I'm going. It actually ended up bumping to some other kids that were in my class or school, and we all traveled down to Soho to an organization called Art Start that had a program. That flyer that I had was of the Hip Hop Project.
Gotcha. Okay, so speaking of the Hip Hop Project, before we go into a clip of it, I want if you can just give an introduction to the program that you found.
So wow. So the Hip Hop Project was a program that was in a nonprofit organization called Art Start, that sole purpose was to help kids how to write, market, and produce their own hip hop album, but also help them heal their lives through the vehicle of hip hop. And this movie captures our transition from, I think you see, for me, 16 to 21. And yeah, so they filmed us that whole duration or that part of my life.
Now, what year was this starting?
So the program started in 1999. And the film, I want to say they recorded me, my graduation, so 2000 and maybe like 2001, maybe 2001. The movie came out in theaters in 2007.
Okay, so we're going to take a break right now, and we're going to watch the trailer to Diana's first. Was this your first screen debut?
First screen.
Okay, here we go.
Just in terms of my life, always moving, living nomadically, that was the norm for me. Being in the streets, I always felt like it was something more. I felt like I was just wasting my life away. Back then, I wasn't really thinking about it. I was just surviving and just trying to make a way for myself. My dream was to create a program where young people could start healing through hip-hop music.
We need is people who are individuals who will write their songs about whatever is on their mind, knowing that people don't have enough of that social, or political, or uplifting material.
If you're going through stuff in your life, that's what you need to put your music or your art about. That's what they got to represent. And that integrity is going to come through in the music. That's what people connect to. That's soul music.
I didn't know what was next. Dear Daddy, hey, how you doing? I sent you $50.
So much rage, so much anger, and it was like I didn't know how to get it out.
And the cat that y'all assume don't have any problems, but they building every day. That was because I was young. I had a passion for music. This is something I want to do. You know what I'm saying? I know that in my heart.
Is this thing on? Can y'all hear me out there?
Faith in these kids. In 5 years, hopefully there'll be 25 programs in 25 other cities in the state.
That we put in this album really gets heard. It's important that it's not all about selling drugs and having guns. To use music as a tool for healing, to use music as a tool for inspiring. That's what music is supposed to be used as anyway.
So Diana,
Yes.
the people that are watching this are like, what? Like, this is Diana.
Oh, other life.
A whole nother life that you had. Can you talk about the program? Just to take us through what the program did for you.
All right. So obviously, so initially, when we got into the program, we walked in, there was like a table and, the administrators from the nonprofit and, the program director, Chris Kazi Roll. And we're like, all right, so what are we about to do here? So, he likes to call it was like the pill and the dog food theory, right? It was like, he knew the way to get us there was to pull us in by the fact that we all were aspiring artists and wanted to get into the music industry. If he would have presented it like, oh, come here and let's heal your life through hip hop, we wouldn't have ever gone, right? So that's the whole point of the pill and the dog food. That you're not going to just try and give a dog a pill. You're going to try and put it in something that they like. So when going through the program, there were he opened us up to the music business. He opened us up to like really tapping into what was going on with us emotionally. As you could see in the movie, it journeys with us. It shows like Kazi, who was a program director. He was also an orphan. Okay. And you see him meet his mother for the first time in the movie. You see Cannon, who mother was diagnosed with MS. And unfortunately, during the taping, she passed away. Then you see me, I'm dealing with my father's incarceration and possible deportation at that time. And then also me dealing with a teenage pregnancy at that time that I didn't go forward with. So you see, so it's way bigger than, you know, us trying to put an album together, but it was Kazi trying to get us to focus in on, yeah, you're going, you know, because at that time is, I don't know, it's like early 2000s. So it's like bling bling. Hip hop is like probably at its like height, you know, pinnacle of like flash and glamour and glitz. So people are rapping and trying to emulate what they're seeing on TV. And that's what we were doing. But Kazi was telling us, like, you have to focus it. What that's not your life, right? You guys don't have the bins outside. You know, you don't have the money out here making it rain. What's really going on in your life? And that is where the music really was birthed from. It was then taking what was true to us and putting it on wax. And our entire performance changed once the music became real and really reflected who we were. But in that, you know, learning about the music business, being in the hip hop project, I was able to intern at Columbia Records when I was 16 years old. From there, I went to P&B Nation, which was a hip hop clothing line, one of the staple hip hop clothing lines. I went to the Source magazine, where I also did freelance writing, and Loud Records, which, you know, is like home of hip hop when we talk about like Big Pun, Mobb Deep, you know, all of the hardcore hip hop. So being able to be positioned in a space where I was able to like get exposure to all of these things that I wouldn't have if I never left Ossining.
Right. So you were dealing with a lot. You were dealing with being a teenager, which is hard enough in itself.
Yeah.
Dealing with immigration issues.
Yep.
And teen pregnancy.
Yep.
So that is a lot. So you went from there, and the music influenced your life, obviously, and you started to redirect your energy. Can you tell, because I think the kids will love to hear it too, what kind of stars did you work with? Because we saw some in the trailer, but what other stars did you work with?
So we, you know, we got to meet a lot of people, you know, like pretty much everybody, like name drop. I'm not a name dropper person, so, you know, for this moment I will. So it's just like, so obviously it was Russell, it was Bruce Willis, it was Annabella Sciorra, it was who else? It was Puff, it was Dougie Fresh, it was I'm like, who else can I think of that deal?
One of them.
Jay-Z. We met Jay-Z. Who else? Wyclef. I met Clef when I was interning at Columbia. DeBrat. I know some of these are like names everybody like who, but yeah, like there was, I mean, I saw, you know, Mobb Deep, you know, when I was at Loud Records. It was like, for me at some point, it just became like, oh, that's, you know, so-and-so. Even at the Source, like people would just, you know, come in the office. Like, so a lot of people.
That's awesome. I think the kids would love to hear that. It's just inspirational. So talk about the end of the program came, something incredible happens for you. So you talk about where you graduated from. One, did you end up graduating there, or did you come home? And then what happens at the end of that program?
Got you. So, so the 2 years I spent in the city, and then it's like senior year. I'm still in touch with my friends here in Ossining. So it's like, I don't really want to graduate, you know, like I don't graduate with people I didn't know. So I was like, I'm gonna come back. So I came back my senior year, and I was gonna shout out to Mr. LaCour. I know he's retired, but he's my favorite like guidance counselor. And
uncle.
Huh?
That's my uncle.
Get out! Tell Kitty I said hi.
Okay,
you're related to everybody. So he you know, he was like, listen, you come back here based on your credits, because remember I told you that whole 9th grade year I wasn't really doing what I was supposed to be doing. So he was like, look, based on your credits right now, you can still walk and all of that, but you're gonna have to like do summer school, come back and finish. And I was like, it's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So he was like, well, you can go to BOCES and you can, do your GED. And I was like, let me think about that. And I did. And I was like, I did their, like, I think they had like a business program at BOCES. So I would spend half my day at BOCES doing like prep for my GED and doing like their business class. And then I would leave after that, head to the city and go intern. I think I was interning at Loud and The Source at the time and doing the hip hop project. So I was on the move. It was perfect. So then I graduate, as you saw on the trailer. They came and they captured that. And then when the program wrapped in the end, Kazi decided at that time he wanted to go and work on his own music individually. So he approached me to become the program director for the hip hop project. And at first I was like, I don't know. But I ultimately did, and I was able to be there. I ran the program for about 3 years.
Now, how old were you when you started running the program?
When I started running the program, so right after high school, I skipped a part of my, they also had created a record label, right? Because I was only there for a year. So they created a record label so we could produce the Hip Hop Project album. And they hired me as a junior general manager. Mm-hmm. So basically I was helping keep the group together. So I left Ossining actually right after high school, had the opportunity to live on Wall Street. Okay, so I lived on Wall Street for like 1 year. And we were working on the album. And then that's when I got, they approached me about running the Hip Hop Project. And then I transitioned from the label and making the album to running the program. So yeah, did I answer your question?
You did. So
okay.
To me, it's incredible. You go from being a shy kid to going through tackling a lot of grown issues, very young, and a lot of us have to do it. So it's very inspiring to see how that all turns around. And you're running a program before you're even 25 years old and working with these massive people in show business. It's incredible. So once you start running the program for 3, what happens in your life that it starts to shift again? Okay.
So what happens, I'm running a program, and I believe we ended up, and all of these things are happening like simultaneously, guys. So if it sounds insane, it was. So I think ArtStart had like some fiscal thing going on, so they had to shut down for a little bit. And I believe this is right. I think I had Dream, or I just was about to have. I think I just had Dream when this happened. So I was home for a little bit. Now, mind you, the movie is still being shot, and they're looking for funding for the movie. And I know it's going to come out at some point, but obviously at this point, I have a child, I have real bills. So I'm like, that movie is good, but I need to go work. So I ended up going to work for a nonprofit for about a year in the Bronx called Sobro. And I was working with high school students in the Bronx. And then I think, one day they called me and they were like, we got the funding, the movie's coming out, you gotta come back, we gotta get the program back up and running. So, I put that resignation in. And I also want to backtrack before we go further. At that point, when I graduated, which was, I did go to Mercy College right out of high school, but because the movie was in motion, I left. And so that's why I was running the program. So I just wanted to put that out there, but I do go back as you see. So, yeah, so they called me and they said, we have funding. The movie is going to come out. We have to get the program back up and running. And I literally, I think, and this must have happened, I feel like within 24, 48 hours, because they were like, we need you to go to California. And I just like threw a bunch of stuff in a suitcase and I was out and I went to California.
How long were you in California?
So I think I was there, when it was less than a week. It was less than a week the first time. But at that point, when we started working the festival circuit, we were moving all around the country.
Okay. Now, when you were working this circuit, where you were performing, correct? Or were you an administrator at that point? Okay.
I was performing and obviously doing press as well to talk about the movie and the experience.
To me, this is a great setup for people that know you today and the great public speaker that you are. And that I want to get into that too. But we'll keep going with the progression of things. So you have Dream, and then what happens after that? So you come back from California and then your life shifts again. So how does
and I skipped over like, cause there's so much and I know we got like an hour. So it's like, I'm trying to like remember all the details. And so also with having Dream, also dealing with the fact that she was going to have sickle cell disease. So that was a lot. Going, picking up and going to California, my mom, my dad, her dad, they were able to like, help me with her. And it was because life was kind of like, all right, well, now we're going to Utah for Sundance. We didn't make it into the Sundance Film Festival, but they had they call it it was like a Starbucks salon. It was like we were performing for Starbucks, put it like that. Okay. And at the Sundance Festival, and it was a way for us to kind of cross promote the movie that was coming out. So, and I had the flu. And I flew to Utah. I was delirious, but I was like, I'm going. And like, I remember like me and Dream's there talking. He was like, look at you, you're sick. You're like, it's like, I was like, I'm going. I don't care. I don't remember much about it. I was in bed most of the time, but I do remember performing. And I just, I didn't want to miss the opportunity, which I felt was like a once in a lifetime.
This is just a precursor and a testament to who you are today. It all makes sense now. So you said Dream had sickle cell. Can we talk about that and what that did for you as a mom, a fighting mom? So if you could just talk about what happens now with.
So I remember, learning about it, and I was like, I was 19. So I was like, I remember I had to trade. And just for those who don't know, just educate a little bit. Sickle cell is a sickle cell trait and sickle cell disease are connected, but they're different, right? So being a carrier of the trait is just that. You're a carrier of the trait. You may not want to go climb the Appalachian Mountains, but it really doesn't impact you. Some people it does. I don't want to like take away from it because some people, who have the trait say they experience things, but for the most part, you live a normal life. Now, when two people have the trait, so if mother and father have the trait, the child has a 1 in 4 chance of coming out with sickle cell disease. Mm-hmm. Now, when you have sickle cell disease, that's when the problems occur, because all of us, we typically have round, flexible blood cells that go through the veins. People who have sickle cell disease, they have cells that are hardened and shaped like a C, but they also produce normal red blood cells too. The problem is that if they produce too many sickle cells, red blood cells, they can get what they call blood clots, and that can happen anywhere in the body. Okay, so I call it like the disease of Russian roulette. You never know when it's going to go off. So at 19, obviously learning about this is like, devastating, because you're like, what do I do? what is the right decision? How is this going to impact this person's life? But you pray. And as you can hear in my story, I've always been divinely guided. And I remember one of my friends that's in a group, he knew somebody who had a daughter who was living with it. And he connected us. And I still to this day have never met her, but we spoke on the phone, and I just kind of spilled my guts and all of the things that I was questioning and thinking about. And but she just assured me that, you'll be all right, and she will be all right. And I decided to go forward, and I did.
Good. Can you tell us two things, because not everybody knows how did you find out you had the trait and Dream's dad? And two, who does this disease affect? Because I don't think everybody knows that.
Oh, okay. So I knew I had the trait from a little girl, because I remember it was kind of one of those. I remember my doctor talked to me one time, and she said, when you're little, and you're ready to have kids, you have to, that's not one of the things you're thinking about when you're 19. Okay. So I knew, but I didn't think to say to her dad, what do you have a sickle cell trait? So obviously by the time we figured it out, I was already with child. So his mom, confirmed that he had it. Then I did like the whole amnio and synthesis test, and that's how we discovered. Who does it primarily affect? Black and brown people. Those who are from the sub-Saharan area of Africa. Okay, so you think about that whole region, right? I want to say Africa because you could be Italian too, okay, and you can have sickle cell, because I've met people that are Italian. You can be Puerto Rican and you can have sickle cell, and definitely could be Black. So the other thing too that I like to educate people about is sickle cell was actually a cure, if you think about it, because it was the body figured out a way to protect itself against malaria. It deoxygenated, getting the word wrong, but you know what I mean, the cells to protect the person. So what happens when you take people from their native area, the body still hasn't figured out, we're not there. We don't need to create this trait anymore to protect ourselves from malaria. So it's still creating the trait.
That's interesting. That part I didn't know and never thought about. So offline, we'll have a whole conversation on that one.
Because I kept asking why.
Yeah.
I was like, where it's coming from. And I needed to really get down to understanding, why it existed, what is it, because you're a mom, you want to do any and everything to protect your child. And I needed to understand it fully, not just the version a doctor was giving to me.
Okay. So it's hard enough being a parent, right? At any age, but being a young parent, a teen parent, and then a teen parent with a child with this kind of disease, and now you turn activist. How do you do that? I
want to say I've been an activist my whole life. For the most part. I was like, I was that person that if I saw someone getting bullied, I'm coming after the bully. Or I just wasn't, I don't like bullies. I don't like people who bully people for no reason. So I think it's always been there. I think also, even for my dad, fighting to keep him here in this country. I was pregnant and going to court in Pennsylvania and the Bronx, and well, not the Bronx, but here in Westchester. And, I was advocating pregnant, 19 and, getting all my dad's attorney's needs, getting this person to sign an affidavit saying that they messed up this. And so, and in the Hip Hop Project. So I was the one in the group that, all of the guys, I was the only female rapper. There was a singer. So they would come to me when it was time for agreements, because we did have to sign contracts working on this album and movie, because it is available on iTunes still. So we had to, we had to sign agreements, and people will come to me. So I've just been a natural activist, if you will.
So could you tell everybody about how you got to Dreams Law and what, how you got there?
So let me see. So fast forward, the movie, I'll go to the movie comes out. So the movie comes out in 2007. And at this point, it's like, it's the build. It's like, all right, this is where all of our dreams are gonna come true. Hello, Hollywood. We did go to Hollywood. I did go to Hollywood.
Okay.
And I would say this. When anytime you like fame and money starts, getting attached to things, I think people kind of like, go crazy. So we had a plan for the movie, right? Actually, the plan was to work the movie in a grassroots type of way, like a slow rollout. So meaning we would, to explain to the layperson, like we were going to start, let's say, in the tri-state area. So release the movie in like New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, and then roll it out, going further south to like Maryland, DC, I don't know, or North Carolina, right? And it's just keep going and rolling the movie out slowly. Well, the plan changed, and somebody thought it was a great idea to say, we're going to release the movie all at once, 13 cities and states, okay? But someone didn't do research, because the movie came out in between Spider-Man and Shrek.
No. Oh no. Okay. Oh no. Okay.
Now, yeah, I mean, you don't have to know anything about the music industry or anything, but just knowing Spider-Man and Shrek and the amount of money and budget that goes into those productions,
Right.
our little bitty documentary, as beautiful and expensive as it was, coming in between that, you don't stay.
Yeah.
So I think it may have lasted in the theaters maybe 3-4 weeks at most. Then it was bleeding, right? So then it was the conversation of going to DVD. And then I think just like, the wind kind of was like knocked out doing it that way. But yeah. So
and then Dream, how did we get to, was it at her care? Was it, what happens to get us there?
So from there, I then go to work I leave, because now I have to accept reality, right? I'm still a mom and I have to pay my bills, and it was lovely, traveling, but now I have to pay my rent. So I ended up going to work for a startup media company. I did that for 2 years, and then I believe the recession hits. Okay. This is like 2009. And now I'm like, all right, well, am I going to really put my energy into becoming an artist, or am I going to like focus on something else? So at that point, I decided to go back to college. So I re-enrolled in Mercy, and then Dream, I think she's about 5 at this point, and she ends up, and she's in kindergarten, she has a stroke in park school, actually. And I'm going to talk about that later, because that's my new project I'm working on with our new senator. But Dream then heals from the stroke. She starts having monthly blood transfusions. We were approached, I'm fast forwarding a little bit, you guys. So I think about 5 years from that, we are approached to, Dream becomes the Grand Marshal for the Children's Hospital in Westchester. And we start doing media and press and speaking about her story. And a doctor that was there heard her story and said, reaches out to me to say, hey, I think there's an opportunity to cure Dream of sickle cell. And I was like, what? Because as far as anything I've ever heard up until that point was, there's no cure and that this is it, right? So obviously, my ears are like, okay, let's figure it out. He said, so we go to meet the doctor and he explains to us that he could take my stem cells and give them to Dream. Mm-hmm. And she will no longer have sickle cell disease. They call it a haploidentical stem cell transplant, a half match donor, obviously half because she gets half her DNA from me and half from her father. So I was Dream's donor. So I ended up going through a whole procedure. I've never had any medical anything. So my first time, and Dream was like laughing because at this point in her life, she's like, dealing with doctors and hospitals. And I'm like, going crazy because I have to have this catheter, put on me so that we could take my stem cells. And anyway, but she's like, Mom, talking me through it. So I find out in my research that if Dream, when she comes out, because I asked to speak to a patient that went through the transplant to find out from them what their experience was like. And one of the things they said to me was, I said, what is the one thing you wish you would have did when you look back? And she said, prepared for when I went home. And I was just kind of like taken aback because I couldn't like grasp why when you went home, because you're thinking you have a transplant, you're happy, this is it, you're ready to go. But I discovered that they are very critical when they leave for transplant. Like her son had like 12 hours of fluids, which would be the same story for Dream. So learning, because she had to have a central line, and basically it's like an IV that goes through the heart, and only a registered nurse is allowed to work with that line. And that was something that I discovered. Mm-hmm. So with that, armed with that information, I ended up reaching out to the senator and assemblywoman and asking, like, is this so, does she come home and I have to be her sole caregiver? Because this is a lot, because we're talking about her being severely immunocompromised. So in any event, I came up with a plan. I was like, we're going to move forward with the transplant. I created a village around Dream. I call it a villagers email that I would send monthly to let everybody know what was going on with her. And when it was time for her discharge, I said, Dream needs private duty nursing to go home. And that is when all hell broke loose. So they basically, hospital and the insurance company were like, no. Mm-hmm. And, but, I was prepared. So I reached out to the senator and the assemblywoman, and I explained to them what was going on. They also knew what was going on because I kept them informed with Dream's villager emails.
Which one?
And said that it wasn't a safe discharge for her to go home because Dream had 12 hours of fluids. Mm-hmm. She had one antifungal and an antiviral that both ran over an hour. So you're talking about 12 to 14 hours of infusion, in addition to oral medication, in addition to just normal maintenance of a child, in addition to taking care of myself. So none of that sounds safe. So got with them, we came together, and Dream received nursing to go home. Excellent. And she had nursing for the entire duration that she had her central line until she made a full recovery, defeated sickle cell, defeated transplant. Okay. Mm-hmm. And yeah. And then when she was done, I was like, all right, now we got to make this a law. And that's what I did for 4 years until the governor signed it in 2019.
Yes, Diana. It's just a great fight. Which assembly person and which senator was helping you?
So it was Assemblywoman Sandy Gala, and it was Senator Carlucci.
Fantastic. So we're getting close to the point where we're gonna have people ask you questions. You're another one that needs a part two. But
right, I feel like we just scratched the surface.
Yes. So now you did that, and dream is cured, and that is so fantastic. That is good. Now you're on the school board. Like, can you tell us what's next for Diana? What's Diana doing, and what's next for Diana?
All right, so I finished my school board term in June, so that's it. In terms of what's next, Diana focusing on Diana projects. I think I've kind of like focused on projects that were kind of outside of myself. So for me, it's focusing on my 1865 Freedom Squad with my business partners. Is focusing on Black Agenda LLC. Is focusing on Dream's new legislation, which is called the Shepard-Patterson law, which is to help children who have life-threatening illnesses, and for the doctor to communicate to the parent about the Committee of Special Education, so that way they can request to be evaluated to get a 504 plan. And that is all related to the stroke that Dream had while she was in school. And we can get into that another day. But yeah, 1865, Black Agenda. Feel like I'm missing something.
The Juneteenth Council is
Juneteenth Council. You and I, Jay, Alfima. Yeah, so really focusing on projects that that I feel now are like, it's like building all of the things that I've put out for other people,
right? For
myself.
Really,
but it's still for other people.
Really live a life of service, and we appreciate you for that. So I have some questions here. One is the Rising Above Boundaries. The kids want to know how they can see the movie.
I believe you could go on Amazon. You might be able to go on YouTube. It actually comes on TV sometimes. I know it comes on, I think, what's Magic Johnson's channel, Aspire. Sometimes it comes on that channel. It used to come on the Sundance channel. I don't know if it does. So sometimes I'll get random messages from people around the country like, I just saw your movie, you're inspiring. I was like, oh, they must be running it.
They also asked, did you like the teachers down in the city?
No, to be honest. No, I'm like, no. No, let me not say that. There were a few. I think it's like anything, right? You're gonna always have good and bad. You're not gonna, have everybody is there for the, the right reason. So I would say it would be no different than the experience that I had here in Westchester. I think it's just a matter of gravitating to the right teacher.
Okay. So who were some of your influences? Because I still think you are an artist. You are an artist, but what were your influences in hip hop?
Musically, I love Lauren. Like, like musically as an MC, I would say Lauren, Queen Latifah. Who else? I like Lady of Rage. Yo, Foxy. I remember reciting a lot of Foxy lyrics in the beginning.
Like her.
Yeah. And why it was Foxy for me, because she was like chocolate and looked like me. And I was like, yeah, because oh my gosh, I think the kids don't realize how much of a beautiful time they're living in right now, where they're able to see so much imagery of people that look like them in all different arrays of shades, on huge media platforms. We need, like I said, we had Foxy. I was like, oh my gosh, she's chocolate. She looks like me, and she's a rapper. So
I'm just gonna show them really quickly, Foxy Brown. That you really do. You guys resemble a lot. And she was a good lyricist. My husband and I used to fight over the battles between her and Lil' Kim.
Lil' Kim.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Your life is incredible, Diana. And you were doing this, you
Thanks.
weren't even 30 and all this was going on. This is like a lifetime worth of life and you're still going.
Oh, I'm just getting started.
So they said, can you tell us more about the connection of rapping and public speaking? And how did rapping help in your fight for legislation for a dream?
So I think, one of the things in a hip hop project, when I went in, I was a rapper. When I came out, I was an MC. And that's to me, one of the biggest distinctions, because an MC, and, I know I got to educate for some that on, is a master of ceremony. You know what I'm saying? Moves the crowd. When you really focus in on your craft, you understand it's way deeper than just the lyrics. When you are on that stage, you are in control. So it doesn't matter now that, whether I decide to speak 16 bars or whether I'm just speaking, a powerful speech. It's the same, energy. It's just different presentation. And that is how being an MC, I don't want to say a rapper, being an MC, because there's some rappers today that can't do that. But being an MC, it was able to help me transition to even what I'm doing now in terms of advocating legislation.
And you also talked about how learning the business, you also learned how to, you learned about law and other aspects of the music business other than just the lyrics. Can you just talk briefly about that?
So like one of the things for me, and I think it was a great aha moment, oh, this is why school and makes sense and how it can apply to music. When I was interning at Loud Records, I was actually interning for the copyrights administration department. So I remember one of my assignments was to help kind of organize split sheets. And I was like, what are these? And she said, basically, these are percentages of the song. So I was like, oh, okay. So, and for those, if you're aspiring artists, you'll still even, use this method where, there's like two parts of a song. It's the music and it's the lyrics. Mm-hmm. But then if you're a writer, you have 50% of the lyrics, which is actually 100%. And I know this may be confusing. I'm maybe anyway, my point is that it made math make sense to me, right? It was like, obviously other than like the things you need to do every day, but then it was like, okay, now you have to do percentages, and how it was all connected. So music, the vehicle of hip hop started exposing me to, now I'm looking at copyrights and what is a copyright and how do you register a copyright, and we're not talking about a poor man's copyright and how that, you used to once upon a time could do that, but no, you need to register it with the, United States Congress Library. Like it made me start thinking. I started seeing attorneys that were Black and working in the entertainment industry. And I was like, oh, you're Black and you're an attorney? Wait, you don't do criminal law? So okay. It was, it was wow. And the Hip Hop Project, being able for them to take us to a historically Black college, on a historically Black college tour, that was a very big deal for me, because that was the turning moment where I was like, I'm going to college. And because I saw students that looked like me striving for higher education, even though I didn't go to a HBCU, it was that impactful to me that I was like, I'm going to go and, get, do higher education.
That's fantastic. So we have another thing someone wants you to do. I don't want to put you on the spot. So they want you to say a little rap or something before you leave, or
Zoom.
You have a poem or a spoken to.
And that's funny. I thought about that too. I was like, first of all, I'm a Virgo. I'm a perfectionist. That's one. And, second of all, even though I don't rap today, I'm still an artist and I'm sensitive about my,
Right,
so
right.
I was like, I don't know how this is going. No rehearsal, no nothing. I'm not doing it. But
I understand.
I'll promise you this. The moment Joyce sets up something, I will.
Okay.
All right.
Can you speak, because we're down to the last 5 minutes, And we do have the children on from Rising Above Boundaries. Can you speak to them about just living their dream? I mean, because you just tackled so many things. Like I said, immigration, teen pregnancy, just
I've
striving
had the full
about
black life.
everything. So can you speak to the kids?
Well, if I could say anything to them is that, no matter what you think your current circumstances, you are not you're not bound by it. You can unbound yourself from anything. You can do literally anything that you put your mind to. And you have to just have I don't care what anybody says, I'm going to do this, because when you do that, I mean, the stars, the universe, everything has no choice but to comply with what you are demanding for yourself. So if you don't demand it for yourself, nothing will comply. But you have to, because trust me, I've heard it. I mean, I heard so many, you can't do it, you're not good, you name it, I heard it all along my path. I'm telling you, you look at this wall, this whole wall behind me is a bunch of, she can't do it. Statistically, you think, oh, she has a GED, she can't do it. Oh, she comes from a broken home, she can't do it. Oh, she had a child that, as a 19, as a teenager, she can't do it. Go to college. Oh, she dropped out. She's never going to go back to college. Did that. It's like, oh, you want to create a legislation. Oh, you're not going to do it. They're never going to let that happen. 4 years, pounding Albany. It's done. You hear me? So you can do anything you put your mind to, and nobody can stop you but yourself.
Diana, that was a wonderful way to wrap up just the beginning of talking to you and working with you, because we already talked about some great things that we can see partnering with in the future. But we thank you for spending time with us and telling your story and sharing with this community. And we thank you for your service and advocating for our children and fighting for us in this community. So we thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Joyce said it beautifully, Diana. I mean, you've got an amazing story, and I think your words to the kids said it all. So persevere, persevere, persevere. And we're so glad everybody joined us today. I do want to just say, the exhibit that Joyce curated at Bethany Arts Community is on until March 5th, and we are open Monday through Friday. Hours are 10 to 4. We are open also next Saturday, 10 to 2, and Wednesday, March 3rd, 5 to 8. I encourage everybody to come see it. It is really, really moving. Joyce has just begun to touch the surface of the rich story of the Black community here in Ossining. And we look forward to what is still to come. And I also want to let people know that on Wednesday at noon, we have an artist in residence who will be with us at Bethany this week, who is a choreographer and dancer, Dare Iorendi, who's going to be talking about his creative process and some of the things that he's working with at the moment around really intimate knowledge of ourselves and our spaces, something he was interested in. And obviously this time of COVID has made even more relevant. And then next Saturday, we have the last in our evenings of events associated with Black History Month. We have an evening of music with KJ Denhart at 5 p.m. I encourage everybody to register and sign on in and join us. And with that, I say again, thank you, Diana. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you everyone for joining us, and I hope you get out there and enjoy a little bit of the beautiful day that we are having here.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye, everybody.